Welcome to Taste Buds. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, writer, and foodie. Today, I'm speaking with Chef Or Amsalam, a two times James Beard Award semifinalist and founder of Lodge Bread. Welcome, Or. Great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I have to ask, why bread? I mean, I love it. You love it. But tell me, go a little deeper.
Yeah, I mean, bread has always been a staple in my household. Growing up, in a Israeli Moroccan family, we ate bread with virtually everything. So it was always something that I was obsessed with. Just from I just loved finding great bread as a kid, and also later on in my professional life in kitchens. And towards towards the end of my cooking career, I started doing some private chefing, and I just couldn't find the type of bread that I wanted, and so I just started making bread, and I ended up becoming obsessed with it. And here we are now, 11 years later, and I'm running a bread bakery. So yeah, it just became an obsession of mine. Yeah. Mm.
What is it though? I mean, and I love that you couldn't find the right bread, so you made it. What makes it such an important element to every meal?
Like I said, I mean, we grew up eating a lot of homemade bread, and my aunts would make bread, or wherever we would be celebrating holidays. Somebody was always making challah. Uh, so it was always important for me to find good bread with any food that I was serving, just because it really is. If it isn't good, it just really can ruin a dish. Like if you're eating shakshuka and the bread is no good, it just kind of dulls it all down. And so I'm also a very obsessive person. So when I find something and I start trying to make it, or I get very into it, I need to do it the best I possibly can. And so that happened with bread. And we just went in a deep dive of, you know, finding the best grains. We milled our own grains for a little bit, working with some local growers and millers. And now we've kind of gotten to a place where we're very happy with the product we make, but it's just something that we constantly work on. And, you know, that's why I love it so much, because you can always get better. And it seems like such a simple thing, but it really is not, and it's a challenge every day.
Obviously, you want the best ingredients, but for
Sure.
those cooking or baking at home, what is the secret to making bread?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of obviously repetition, but also just having faith in like the recipe that you're following, and understanding that bread takes time to develop, and like your dough is not gonna it's not gonna feel right in the beginning, and people always rush to add more flour, or add more water, or it's not right, so I got to change it or knead it more. And it's just about letting the bread develop in the right time, and not really messing with it too much, and giving it time to do that, and just kind of keep going even if you fail, because you will when you make bread at home. I mean, we still fail in the bakery plenty. So, uh, understanding that failure is only a way to learn and to grow is very important in bread making.
In life,
Yeah,
probably.
absolutely. Yeah.
So what you're saying is when the bread is sticky or the dough is sticky, I need to resist the urge to add
I
more
mean,
flour or what?
yeah, I mean, I occasionally will do a bread class at our bakery. And one of the biggest things is people are often shocked by where the dough starts versus how it ends up. Um, Over time. And so, especially with sourdough bread that needs time to ferment and really come together, just avoiding that urge to add more flour because you feel like you said it is too sticky or too wet, or needs to resemble more like a finished dough. It's just never going to feel that way until it has time um, for the gluten to develop and you know, the grain to hydrate properly. So yeah, you just got to let it be for a little bit. If we did go over a bread recipe, that would be, you know, the first step is mixing the flour and water and then letting it rest. And so, you know, even in 30 minutes, 45 minutes of letting the flour hydrate, it does change a lot and it becomes easier to work with over time.
Okay. So let it sit before I get my fingers sticky.
Well, your fingers are gonna be sticky. Well,
Yeah,
we
that
mixed by
that's true.
hand in the beginning, so you're gonna have flour and dough all over and just, you know, I just let it rest. It's an important, step in bread making. There's a lot of resting periods for the dough.
Which is great, because my other me is goal strategist. It's always about what can you do while waiting for other things to happen. So
Sure.
bread is like the perfect recipe to make when you're trying to get stuff done. It's like that.
Yeah.
Set it and then go do a thing.
You can
And
cook Shabbat dinner while you're making, you know, bread for the next day.
the other thing I think the best part about the bread, in addition to the taste, is the aroma. I
Sure.
mean, does anything smell better than freshly baked bread?
It's really tough to beat that smell, yeah. It's funny because we have several locations, so one of the things that we like to maintain because we bake all the bread at one location, but every one of our cafes bakes cookies because it's really hard to beat the smell of a freshly baked product like a cookie or loaf of bread, so we like to maintain that at each one of our locations.
That's very smart. Because
Mhm.
I guess if anything smells better or as good as bread, it would be a cookie.
Yeah.
What is your earliest food memory and does it involve bread?
Earliest food memory. Man, I don't know if I can pinpoint an exact memory, but I mean, the the first time that I actually started eating, you know, like the food that my mom would make rather than, you know, the bland diet that like my kids currently are stuck on. My mom used to cook all the time at home, and I loved everything she made, and like I said, I mean, we ate bread with everything. We ate bread with rice. We ate bread with potatoes, bread with bread. So there was always some bread in the house. But uh, my fondest memories of bread and food were obviously in Israel at my aunt's homes when we would come in and sit down for a Shabbat lunch or Shabbat dinner, and the tables were filled with salatim and you know different pickles and you know things to eat with bread, and that was always the most memorable.
And of course, the ever popular bread with bread. I love how you threw that one in there.
Oh, yeah.
What led you down the chef path?
I've always loved food, since I was a kid, and I always experimented in the kitchen, and you know, eating was just a very emotional thing for me, like, connecting through food was always a very big thing for me, and it just kind of felt like a natural progression for me, as I, you know, ventured into my, you know, adult life, finding what my passion was. You know, we had there was one avenue to take into the family business or to divert into, you know, something completely on my own, and start that new adventure. And I think it just was like, for me, it just was natural to get into something food related. Um, and yeah, I always loved it and I still do.
What is your favorite or one of your favorite things that you cook? Because we love to share a recipe.
But yeah, I mean, one of our favorite things to eat is definitely shakshuka, and I have a lot of great memories of eating shakshuka either from my father who would make it a lot at home or in you know in Israel as a child, and shakshuka is definitely one of my favorite things to make and eat. It's just so simple, but it's so delicious, and you can eat it for any meal, um, and it always works.
For those who may not be as familiar, can you give the abbreviated what is
Yeah.
shakshuka?
Yeah, so shakshuka is like like a rich, rich and spicy tomato and pepper stew that is cooked for a long period of time. And once that sauce is developed, you will crack some eggs into it and then cook the eggs in the sauce. And I mean, depends how you like your eggs, but you know, traditionally we serve it with a soft cooked egg inside so that the yolk can cut some of like the spiciness and the acidity of the sauce, and we eat it with bread.
Because everything is better
Oh,
with
it's
bread.
especially that, yeah. I find
So
it very hard to watch people eat shakshuka without bread.
is it possible to eat it without bread? I
If
mean,
yeah,
you need it
people
for
do
the
it.
dipping, right?
Yeah, I mean, people do it, and I've seen it done. We serve shakshuka at the restaurant, so I've seen people eat it in many different ways.
And what is your stance on bagels?
Bagels, I mean, they're great. I love bagels. We make a Jerusalem bagel, so it's a little different than a normal bagel. It's not a boiled like traditional boiled bagel. We cook it in our bread oven just like any other bread. But I mean, bagels are great. We don't make a traditional bagel, a longer Jerusalem bagel.
And I was going to ask you, what are some of your more unique breads?
Yeah, I mean, so our seeded loaf is a little bit unique because it has something called a nigella seed. We call it in Hebrew. It's called katzach. It's like a black onion seed. It's a seed that has a very distinct flavor, and a lot of bread in the Middle East utilizes that seed. And you know, when we started making it, I don't think many people were using that seed in bread. Sometimes you'll find it on like naan or like Indian bread, but in like mass produced or like sourdough breads, we you didn't see it that much. And so that's like our seeded loaf is pretty, I think, unique because of that.
And what is your take on desserts? Do you do any? I,
Oh yeah,
I don't want to say like sweetbreads, but that's something
we do a
completely
ton of
different.
sweets. We make a ton of pastries. We make giant cinnamon rolls made out of brioche. We make croissants. We make cookies, cakes. You know, for Thanksgiving we'll make pies. So yeah, we make a ton of sweets at the bakery.
And if you were to play favorites with sweets, what would it be?
My personal favorite is probably the chocolate halva croissant. It's like a rolled croissant that's got like almost like a halva spread that we make with milk chocolate in it. It's one of my favorites for sure.
Oh, I could almost taste it in my head. That
Yeah.
sounds delicious. What are your tips for embracing the joy, the love of cooking and baking?
I mean, it's hard because not everybody enjoys it, and you can't force somebody, right? Like to enjoy cooking or bake. Some people look at it almost like a chore. Uh, I think that you know, instead of enjoying the moment of cooking, enjoying what it brings, right? Like when people sit at a table and actually enjoy the food that's made, sometimes it inspires me to make, you know, a larger meal or you know, make something that I haven't made in a long time, just because I like how it brings people together. Um, and so I think that's a good tip for people, especially if people are looking at more as like a chore. Um, just understand that whoever you're cooking for is gonna appreciate and enjoy it, and if you enjoy it.
I like that. Really good point. And you mentioned before that your kids eat more bland
Yeah.
than what you grew up with. How does that happen?
Well, I mean, they're young, so they just have their own taste. They love schnitzel. It's a very easy thing for kids to enjoy, but just like kids, it takes a lot to get them to try something, and, um, I think it's just like a natural thing for kids between the ages of 7 and 2.
And what is their take on bread?
Oh, they love bread. My son would eat bread for my oldest son would eat bread any time of the day for any meal. He'd replace every meal he could with bread. Yeah.
Some days I could too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
My wife was pregnant with him when we were building the bakery, so she was eating a lot of bread. So, probably one of the reasons why he loves it so much.
Well, I guess that's an answer to, is it nature? Is it nurture?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is there something you know now that you wish you knew before delving into the wonderful world of bread?
Um, just being okay with failure. Yeah, like I said previously, just not being too hard on it because every day is a new day. Because it's unlike most careers or most jobs, uh, every day is a fresh start with in the bakery or in the cooking world. So, if you fail the first day, one day of the week, you have another 6 days to make it up and make it better. And so, yeah, just being a little bit easier on myself as we were starting out the project.
And again, whether it's failure in the kitchen or building something much bigger and longer lasting than bread, there are lessons to be learned from everything, right?
Sure. Hmm. Of course.
For those who are considering exploring a new path, whether it's related to what they do or a dream, what words of wisdom do you have for them?
I mean, I guess just sticking to it, because anything worthwhile is going to be hard. Um, and just don't give up. And if it's something that you're really passionate about and you want to pursue it, just make sure that it's 100% what you want, and just give it as good of a shot as you can, and you know, hopefully things will go in the right direction.
I feel like there's a bread baking analogy there. You know, put together the dough, let it sit, watch
Sure.
it develop.
Yeah.
And if your bread falls flat, just try tweaking the recipe.
Yeah. You can't just throw it all out because it failed once. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've come to a point where it feels like there's no future from there, and just keep your head down and just keep working, and as long as you give it all you can, you should be all right.
Love that. Well, I'm so thrilled that all of the pedal to the metal and the hands on the dough have worked out for you. Where can people learn more about you and your bakery slash restaurant slash everything?
Sure, yeah. So we have a few locations in town. Our first location in our bakery is in Culver City. Um, our second location's in Woodland Hills, and then we have a location right now in Pico that we are closing, and we're going to be reopening in Beverly Hills in the coming weeks. So that should be a fun opening for the community on Robertson Boulevard.
Excellent. And
Yeah.
so we are both based in LA,
Mhm.
but if you are not in LA, what can people do to bring more bread into their lives if they don't have the convenience of yours?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of great books out there and resources for home bakers. I'd recommend like the Tartine bread book, or Josie Baker's bread book is a great resource for home bakers. Maybe at some point we'll have a bread book, but those are definitely great resources for people looking to start making sourdough breads.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Or, for your time today. Thank you for tuning in to Taste Food with Deb. Don't miss an episode. You can subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, your favorite podcast platform. And if you go to jewishjournal.com/podcast, you can read the articles, get the recipes that go with each episode. And we're going to have that shakshuka, which I personally cannot wait to try. Of course, I'll have to bake some bread to go with it because bread, and you can learn more at tastebudswithdeb.com. Until next time, bon appetit.